So good morning.
Good morning.
We continue our 7 Sunday sermon series.
Wow. Series.
I just love that. On the 7 churches that received the 7 angels' warnings and encouragement in the book of Revelation. So today we continue on to the church in Thyatira. And this is the angel's opportunity to speak to us in a more advanced state. So as the angels are approaching the different churches, each church has a certain spiritual strength. This church has a lot of love and truth and endurance. And there is one major weakness or temptation that Thyatira experiences. And this is what the angel is addressing for the sake of the people, for the sake of us. And that has to do with that naughty little toleration of Jezebel. So, who is this character Jezebel? First of all, I want to ask you, what do you, when you hear either in a movie today, in 2016, in a movie if you hear reference to Jezebel, or if it's a Halloween scary movie, or if you hear in religious conversation about Jezebel, what is your association with that character? Anybody?
Evil.
Yes.
Evil.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
And what kind of evil?
Bad.
Sexual immorality.
There it
Oh,
is.
yeah.
Here's that word, sexual immorality, fornication. Dang it.
She's very interested in seducing.
Ooh, seduction.
Betrayal for some reason.
Thank you. That's a lot of it. That's a lot of it, Charlie.
What did Charlie say?
Betrayal.
Oh, betrayal.
So seduction is a very powerful human experience, yes? Have you ever been seduced?
Yep.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Sometimes you want to be seduced and sometimes you
just
don't.
don't.
But before we go into a very fascinating correspondence of Jezebel, which is the temptation of the Thyatirans, let's hear historically who Jezebel was. Does anybody know? She comes out of the book of the Kings, the time in the Old Testament, in the Hebrew Scriptures, of the time when the kings were ruling. She was the queen of Israel. And she was King Ahab's wife. She was the one in that time who actually incited the king to betray and abandon Yahweh. Now Yahweh, with all of the turbulence of the Old Testament, Yahweh was the God that even though horrible things happened to the Israelites in their journey, Yahweh was a loving God. Yahweh was a God that was loyal to the Israelites. And even though the Israelites kept turning from Yahweh, Yahweh kept coming back and saying, "Come back to me." So there was a God that was a God of love and loyalty and faithfulness. Never give up on the Israelites. But Jezebel said to King Ahab, she said, "Turn toward the other gods, toward the idols." And she actually was for the persecution of the prophets at that time. And she was for false prophets, for believing in things and gods that were false, that were not of the qualities of love. So she incited the king to turn away and abandon the God of love, this queen. And she also persecuted the prophets. And at the end of her life, she was so hated by her court that they threw her out of her bedroom window and her corpse was eaten by stray dogs. Happy Halloween. Okay, so really abandonment, betrayal, all those things. She is also associated historically with painted women. What do I mean by that? She was finely dressed. She's associated with prostitutes, right? So when we talk about, when you hear in scary Halloween movies, you hear, Jezebel. That's the history of it, is that she was finely dressed and well painted, but inside, not beautiful, not beautiful. So I wonder what the correspondence, when the angel is speaking to the Thyatirians, actually, very encouraging words. The Thyatirians, who were they? Let's talk about them before we go into the intriguing correspondence of Jezebel. The Thyatirians were actually people who were far down the road of spiritual growth, or as Swedenborg would call it, regeneration. The Thyatirians were pretty advanced spiritually, very balanced. The angel congratulates them that they are of love and faith. And who in this life would we associate with a well-balanced person? This would be, for example, let's imagine one of our American soldiers who is in battle and sees an enemy hurt, an enemy soldier hurt. And that American soldier cares for and aids the enemy soldier. Why? Because in principle, it's right to care for a brother or a sister in need. That would be a balanced person who fights for the cause of good, but when there's a human being in front of him or her, they aid and care for that human being because that life matters. That's the kind of balanced human being that we're looking at in Thyatira. The angel is saying, you're doing well, you're far down the road. Might be Jesus on the cross, who is being hurt, dying. And Jesus says, Father, forgive them. They know not what they do. That's truth and love right there, operating. Yeah. That's the Thyatirians. And so the angel is saying, yes, you're doing all these things well. You're far down the road of spiritual development. You're mature spiritually. But I have this one thing against you. You tolerate Jezebel. So you would think that being far down the road of spiritual maturation, that we wouldn't have too many pretty tough temptations. You'd think that we'd be pretty balanced in how the struggles that come along in our life. Imagine one of your best days and how good you feel. You wake up and you feel good. You have a good breakfast. You walk out the door and you say, thank you, God, for this life. And you go to work or you go to your mission, whatever your mission is for that day, and you make a difference in that day, and you feel good, and you have enough to eat, and you give thanks. But yet, there is this one little naughty thing that you tolerate. This naughty temptation. What is Jezebel in us?
Chocolate.
Chocolate.
Well, I wish it were that simple.
Now you're going from preaching to meddling.
And what Jezebel is very powerful in us. Very powerful. And very sneaky. And very persistent. It keeps coming back. What in the heck do you think that is? And when you hear Emanuel Swedenborg's suggestion of what Jezebel is in us, you'll think, what? That can't be Jezebel. Alan.
Well, I would say self-righteousness, but Can I just interject something very
Interesting.
quickly?
Yeah.
When Jesus was, they asked him for a sign of the times. He says, I'm not going to give you a sign of the times except for, what was the whale?
Oh, Jonah, yeah.
Yeah, now, you mentioned that she was the wife of King Ahab, which was in the Melville, Moby Dick.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that you're referring to our self-feeling posing as being good. We feel that it's a facade at do-gooding. And I know this is politically incorrect and everything.
That's all
But
right.
I think we're living in a society where there's a lot of dislike and hatred even of people who supposedly are do-gooders and who are, you know. And I think there's a schism here. There's actually a division. It's an emotional kind of reaction.
And I think what you're saying is more obvious than this.
You know,
So you're
maybe-
absolutely right in that, I'm not saying that that's Jezebel's correspondence, but I would say that what you're saying is a huge dynamic in
It's
us.
symbolic. You know.
It is, it is. Jezebel is sneakier. And when you hear what she is in you, you'll even say, oh, come on. Come on. She's that sneaky. Ready? Jezebel corresponds to the alluring, seductive tendency to think that the truth we know is all we need to make it to heaven.
Mm.
You know who'd love this? Reverend Dr. Larry Austin, because he's always talking about that important part of attitude and caring. Jezebel corresponds to that tendency in us that tends to be pretty confident that our truth is enough to get us to that golden place we call heaven or salvation, or whatever, however we, nirvana, whatever it is that we envision that we want to go to, the goal, the goal line. We tend to think that whatever it is we've got in our understanding is enough. When the truth is, it's the other one that gets us there. What's the other one?
Humility.
Ooh, well,
Yeah.
that's part of it, you betcha. What's the marriage partner to truth?
It's our love.
Love.
Right. So the tricky thing is that we're drawn and attracted to truth. We're attracted to ideas that will get us there. Which church has got the answer? Which doctrine is the doctrine that'll get me to heaven? Which principles of life do I need to learn so that I get there? And every person in every religion has this sneaky little temptation to think we've got enough of what we need to get us there. But the truth is that it's our genuine caring that gets us there. That's the truth. And that's what we, over and over again, we betray. Over and over again, in subtle and sneaky ways, every day, we think that what we know is enough. When the truth is, when you help someone who needs you, when you offer a prayer, a sincere prayer for someone who you either care about or who you worry about or you don't like. When you go outside of your heart comfort center and reach for whatever the moment and the need is, that's what gets us there. It's kind of like, and I know we haven't had our first snowfall, right, Dan?
Correct.
Right, we haven't had our first snowfall.
Ask the.
Dan and I have a bet as to the date of the first snowfall that sticks. But it's kind of like if you can picture in your mind, let's say that first beautiful big snowfall, and you just wake up, you don't have to rush to work, maybe it's a Saturday morning or a Sunday morning or whatever morning that is, and the snow's coming down and it's like fluffy, and then it's just covering the trees, and before you have to go out and you have to snow blow it, right?
Shovel.
So shovel it, right. So before you have to go clear it off your windows of your car, and you just have a moment, and you look at it and go, wow. And even at certain angles, it sparkles. Remember that beautiful snowfall scene, that snowscape, and how beautiful and pristine it is? That's like the dynamic and the alluring nature of thinking that what you know is enough to get you in communion with God,
Yep.
in that perfect nirvana heaven state. But the truth is that looking out the window at the beautiful snow is wonderful. What if you go out in there for some time, out into the snow?
Brr.
Yeah.
And what if you stay out too long? What happens to your body?
Heart attack.
Nothing good. Nothing good.
What happens physically? Hypothermia and death. You freeze. So there is something very alluring about the pure nature of truth. If we keep learning more truth, if we go to the right church, if we believe the right doctrine, we'll make it. And it's kind of easier, isn't it? It's easier to love the winter from inside your home. But getting out in there, out into the snow, it's a bit dangerous. That's the angel's warning. Don't just think God. Don't just stay inside your house of thoughts and think about God, and don't just think about the truth. Don't live by certain high principles and values, but stay inside. So the angel is saying, make sure that you understand the temptation, that's all. It's not that we're bad. It's not that the Thyatireans are bad. In fact, far along the road of regeneration and spiritual maturation, this persists. It's very sneaky. And we think that in any given day, our thoughts, our meditations, all the things that we do inside our mind are enough. But the angel is saying, remember that that's a struggle for you, even as mature as you are. And care with a genuine heart. Love one another. Come back to me, Yahweh says. Come back to me. You've abandoned me. You've gone somewhere else for a while because it's exciting. Love, true love, isn't always thrilling. Sometimes the loving, caring thing is to be still and not do a lot. Sometimes the loving, caring thing is to let go, and that's not exciting. That's not exciting at all. And so the angel is saying, just beware that Jezebel, that tendency to be allured to truth only, to find me, to find God, isn't enough. You're staying inside the house and watching the snow. And that has its moment of beauty. But God is saying, care, love, especially when it's hard. Do what is compassionate. Mother Teresa. Love the leper. Love the person who hates you. Doesn't mean allow them to hurt you, but it means what is your heart doing in response to those unlovables? And to be sure to go out of your thoughts into your heart center. Remember the tendency and the alluring nature of staying in your head. It's just so easy to stay in our heads. And what is promised in this reading, what's promised is that to rule over the nations. What in the heck does that mean? I don't want to rule over a nation. In fact, we're praying for the next president of our nation. I don't want to be, but it says that the promise is that if you can remember this tendency to stay in your head and not be genuinely caring and compassionate, if you can remember that that's a tendency for you all along the way, it doesn't go away, then I will give you power to rule over the nation with an iron rod. What is that? Well, Emanuel Swedenborg suggests to us that ruling over the nation has to do with, this is the nation. This is the nation. And this is where the struggles and the temptations live. And we will be given power to overcome the struggles that we have day by day. It is a part of the divine plan that we have struggles, but we will be given the power from humility to understand who it is that is actually life itself. So, what is the rod? And we'll close with this. The rod is revealed divine truth. That is, if you can be humble enough to listen to the truth that's being revealed to you about how to love better, that is what the angel is saying you will have. If you have an ear to listen to what the Spirit is saying to the churches. What is the star? This is the magnificent image that we notice with this particular angel. The angel is holding this one bright star. And this star, is it showing it?
Yeah, you can come a little closer maybe?
Okay, here I come.
Mm,
Tell me when.
that's good.
And this star symbolizes the truth that love is what saves us. Look at that again, truth and love together. The truth, the star that shines, telling us the truth that love saves. Not right doctrine,
Exactly.
not the right church, not the right set of principles, but it's getting from your head into the action of your compassionate heart that saves us and is, by the way, what brings peace.